Budgeting is so important because it is the map of how we're going to get a business to success. The other important part of that is the mindset of thinking that whatever it is you're doing, whatever tasks you're doing, you also need to be thinking at the investor level. It's about having a system that can show us this is how much we can extract out of the business environment so we can invest into this. This is now how your business becomes a wealth creation machine.
What one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Go and have a mentor, someone that you can talk with about your business at this level, and make sure it's someone that you pay for.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Athin Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is Andres Garzon, and he is a business strategist, mentor, and principal CEO at Business House Group. He helps business owners and leaders transform their business and unlock their full potential. And he has a Bachelor of Business and Marketing and a graduate of the Coaching Institute. Andres cuts his coaching teeth with Action Coach, helping a wide variety of business owners to achieve optimum performance and excel in their field of expertise. Now, one of the most sought after business coaches in Australia, Andres has successfully worked with over 1,500 businesses over the last 18 years. And he has the uncanny ability to quickly obtain a clear picture of each business, identifying areas of risk, potential, and the changes required to achieve success. And Andres is also a master NLP practitioner and combines this skill with his coaching expertise to help his clients achieve maximum results. Welcome, Andres, and thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you, Athin. Great to be here with you.
Awesome, mate. I'm sure it's going to be a great podcast for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, just introduce yourself by telling us more about you and your journey.
Thank you for that, Athin. And so, a little bit about my journey. So, I came originally from South America. I came from Colombia, and this is back in 1991. And I was 12 at the time. So, I really wasn't conscious of all the stuff that was happening from an economy perspective. There was a lot of violence happening. And so it was quite stressful for my parents. And we had some family that had been here from like the 60s. And we started doing the actual transaction of how to get here, how to organize for the family to come here. So when we arrived, I was still 12, about to turn 13. Very rapidly I saw the difference in environment, right? And I think unconsciously I was starting to pick up on all the opportunities that we have here. So right through high school, I was already thinking about I want to do something in business. And at the time, of course, the idea was to be successful in business is to work for like a large multinational company. And so when I finished high school, my mindset was still around that, very much about okay, success in thinking okay, this is going to be done through a large multinational company, uh, and then the journey started working for some other companies, and you're gaining some experience. But then it was about okay, one day the idea came into my mind. It's like, all right, hang on, this can't be the way. There's got to be a way. There's actually my business. I think that's the way to go through, right? So that's where you could say the entrepreneurial spark lead up. Um, First couple of businesses were failures. Now, of course, looking back, none of us has achieved any success by not failing along the way. So I think that they were necessary. So my first couple of business ventures, they failed for different reasons. One of them was because I had no idea how to actually build a financial, department within a company. So there were other parts of the business that were working, but the financial part was really letting us down. In the second business, the financial part was better, but now I didn't know how to leverage through systems, how to leverage through people. So I was still in that space of everything has to be done by me. I'm the guy that has to do everything. I'm Superman, right? And so this is what led me initially to have access to a coaching environment where I initially met a coach. And I still remember the first conversation. and him saying to me, a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works independent of the owner. And that really struck me because I hadn't thought about business from that perspective, right? And so we set out to go and build this, to go and build this business with the business I was working with and with this coach. And through a journey of around a year and a half, we were able to really transform this company. And I was picking up a lot from this journey, right? So then I decided to sell the business that we built. So sold it, and then I decided to start working in this coaching company. So I was there for the next 10 years, right? 3 of those years were in the sales department. Then I moved into the coaching department, and I was running one of their group training programs as well. And so this, during a period of around 7 years, I really got into the experience of coaching. During that time, that's when I learned about NLP as well. And I was completely amazed to really understand, whoa, this is how as human beings we're engineered. And and business and success is not only about knowing the secrets or knowing the mechanics of a business. It's a lot of it is in relation to how you think about life and business. And so this really made a huge impact on me. And I just said to myself, I need to do this training as soon as possible. So I did the practitioner training, then I went and did the masters in NLP. And I found that together with all the strategy from business plus understanding us as human beings, and how we're engineered in the process, the engineering of change. So this was a really powerful aspect. And so that led on to then me moving on to creating my own coaching company. Then we started niching more into the construction industry. It kind of organically happened this way. I started working with some construction companies. They started getting really great results. That led on to growing the network because they would refer other people, plus they would refer other people that are key to the industry, but not necessarily as clients. This is a network of consultants, advisors, accountants, strategists, financial planners, brokers. You have so many people that are part of this network. So over the last 11 years, we've been building up this company and building up this network. And this has taken us to where we are right now as Business House Group, as an entity. So that's a little bit of the background on how we got to be here today together, Ethan.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. I love knowing about the story and how things change over time. And I think there's a couple of key things there, right? Is like, I talk a lot about coaching and business. It's like going to the gym. You got to do the reps, right? Especially with coaching,
Yes.
and you did it for many years, right? And you honed your craft, and it's like you see a lot of the problems and you start to see, where the solutions are. So I think, I love that part. That's how, you know what you're doing. And that's why I sort of say to people as well, when I work with them, same thing, like you got to do the reps over a period of time. You can't just shortcut your way, to helping people. So I love that part. And we've got a similar background because you've done a Bachelor of Business. I've done an MBA, which is similar. We're both NLP master practitioners. So, I
Yes.
love the element there of understanding, from a business sense, all those key areas from the mindset side, the NLP side, which is so important, and then the practical elements, right, of what's working, on top of that from our coaches as well that we've learned from over the years. So yeah, I see a lot of great alignment there, and obviously it shows in your results, right, with over 1,500 businesses that you've helped over many years now.
Yeah, it's a
And
massive number over, over a couple of decades, and to have had the honor of being in front of, over 1,500 business owners, and being somehow part of their journey in their growth and in accomplishing whatever it is they want to accomplish.
Yeah, definitely, man. So well done with that, and I know you're big on the financial part of business, right? It's so important, like you said, and especially raising the financial IQ, especially in business owners and especially in the construction industry, right? Which is
Yes.
lacking. So firstly, like, why is it important, right, for the construction industry, the business owners to raise, their financial IQ?
All right. Awesome question. Awesome question. And I think that everyone that's meant to hear to hear this message. I wanted to go really profound in the depths of their consciousness, right? Because the key thing is that to me, the financial aspect is the whole foundation of what you're going to build on top of that. And we know that anything that doesn't have a solid foundation is going to collapse. So so for me, the financial part is so important. And I think because I went through the pain as well with the initial businesses that I had. I mean, the first business, it's a small amount looking back now, but back then it was, yeah, and it's still a lot of money, right? We raised around $300,000 from investors to get this business happening. And so, and I'm still in my early 20s back then. And so when the company collapsed, when we had to close it down, we were owing $300,000 to investors, plus we're owing money to suppliers. And and then as I started learning through the coaching career and through more growth, learning about all the things that I hadn't done right, I made a commitment with myself that numbers would be like the key thing for me. So why is it so important? If you look at the construction industry right now and you look at the last 7 years, you can see how much blood there has been in the streets. It's probably the time where most businesses in construction have gone out of business in the whole history of the country, right? Now, here's what's interesting. It didn't happen because there was no customers. It didn't happen because there was no business to be made. It didn't happen because there was no talent out in the marketplace. It didn't happen because there was no profitability. No, it happened because business owners didn't manage their cash flow properly. That's why most of them went out of business, around 98% of them. So they run out of money. And it's the first time that this happens both at the micro, small, medium, and large enterprise levels. All of them suffered, right? And all of them, it comes down to financial IQ. So I think that that in itself is the key to be able to not only operate a business that's just operating, right? It's about a business that's thriving. So most people we entered the business world from a technical background, or someone was a good builder, someone was a good plumber, someone was a good electrician, whatever it is, right? And so one day we think, hey, you know what? I'm making all this money for this guy, for the boss. I can do this, right? And then we go and start a business, right? And this is where most, if we're talking about construction right now, most of the guys out there, they're great at building, at plumbing, at electrical, or being able to find sites to develop, or whatever it is that their craft is. What they're not great at is the business side of the business, of actually creating their company as an investment machine that's going to create wealth for them. That's the missing link. So this is where my message is always about financial IQ, financial IQ. Let's raise the financial IQ. It's going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, definitely, man. I love that. And yeah, so important. I completely agree with that. And I guess, with these, let's talk quickly from a mindset perspective, because I think this is important, right? Where
Yes.
um there's a lot of things that, like, you talked about the technician sort of mindset there, right? With them, and like, oh, I'm good at
Yes.
this, but I don't understand business, which is definitely a big one that you have to work through with the clients. There's also a
Yes.
mindset element, right? That can hold them back, especially around the numbers and the finances and things. So, how do you think that these business owners need to be thinking, around the finances as well?
Great. So it starts with the words I am, because whatever we attach the words I am to has extreme power to what comes after that, what we put next to it. And so if someone is thinking, I'm a builder, right? Sometimes I've even heard clients say, hey, man, I'm just a dumb builder. Right? It's like, or I'm a whatever builder, right? Or I'm a great builder, right? Or I'm a developer, or you know what? I'm really good at finding products to bring in from manufacturing, factories out there and bring them here. Or I'm a great tradesman. So the key thing starts with shifting the mindset to I own this type of business. I'm a business owner. And then even if you could say or I own a successful building company, right? And also the other important part of that is the mindset of thinking that whatever it is you're doing, whatever tasks you're doing, you also need to be thinking at the investor level, right? The world has changed. The game has changed. It's no longer for employees. Employment is something that's disappearing at a rapid rate. What used to be employment is completely changing, right? So we have masses of people that are moving into self-employment, which is like the beginning of the ladder of climbing up in the entrepreneur world. And so going back to a mindset perspective, I think it's really important to have the mindset of I'm a business owner and I'm also an investor. When you start opening up yourself to those two affirmations, you now need to be in the space of like, okay, well, what does a business owner do? Right? What does an investor do? Because the way that an investor thinks is so different to the way that a tradesman thinks or a manager, right? And so it's good to have that awareness. This is something I help my clients to start off with, to have the awareness of like, hey, yes, you may be out there managing for a percentage of your week. You may be managing some people or resources or cash, but you're not a manager. You are the owner, and I need you to identify as the owner, right? I need you to identify as the investor. A really interesting question. I always ask people, so I say, hey, so how much is an hour of your time worth? And by asking that question, how much is an hour of your time worth? I will know how they are thinking, right? Most of the people, when they start working with our company, they give us some figure between their $90 to $200 an hour. And so then my next question is, so who am I actually talking with right now? And it's confusing on purpose. It's like, well, like who's sitting here in my office right now? Who are you? Right? And they're like, what do you mean? Right? Like, what are you talking about? You see in a moment they're thinking, is this guy just, is he a bit crazy or what? Right? Um, but here's where I'm going. If your answer is anywhere below $10,000 an hour, you're still thinking either as a self-employed person or a manager, right? Because those are the people that exchange their time for money. So if as an owner, that's when you start realizing, hang on, there's actually no boundary to how much an hour of my time is worth, or as an investor, because of the way that you're thinking. So this is an initial part of helping people to shift their mindset of thinking as a technician or a manager and moving more in the space of I'm an owner and an investor.
Yeah, love it, mate. So true. Completely agree. And once those shifts happen, then everything starts to change, right? In how they take action and everything, right? From there and actually implement, the different other strategies and things that, get taught. You talked about cash flow before, and I
Yes,
think this, it's the big one, right? Why most businesses are failing, right? Because they're not
yes.
managing the cash flow correctly. So, you know, why is it important, and share a little bit more about managing correctly, like what can we do there to manage it correctly?
Excellent. We have lessons to learn from the big guys, right? Now, we're talking about the big guys. I'm talking about your billion-plus-dollar companies that the successful ones. Let's look at those ones, right? Now, what are the things that they're doing? They're understanding that profit is different to cash flow. Yeah. So we need two systems in your company to track both. They're both very important, right? However, if you were to look at which one's more important, if we look at it from that perspective, well, if you're not making a profit, if your company has a loss in 1 month, it may still survive that. right? So think of a unprofitable company as a company that's sick. But if a company runs out of cash, that business is dead, right? So running out of cash is death. Yeah. Now, most people when they start thinking about cash flow management, they're thinking about surviving. It's like how much cash do we need to survive, right? So immediately you're already playing a game of defense. Now, you come from a sporting background, so you know what happens when you play defense. You lose, right? So
There's only so much
so
you can take, right? Yeah, when you're
exactly,
defending.
right? Before bang another goal, right? So if you're thinking survival, that means you're not thinking success. They're very different things. So you can go into your accounting software and you can always look at what's happened in your game. When I'm talking about the game, what's happened in your year or in your month from a cash perspective by looking at the past, right? But we can't really play success from looking at the past. Yeah, look, I'm going to put it out there. I've got nothing about, nothing to say bad about accountants, right? In fact, we need great accountants, right? What's happening is that from an accountancy perspective, because I see so many businesses, there's not enough focus on future cash flow management, future cash flow management, right? So not looking at what's happened in the past, but having a system in place that allows you to see the future of your business. Now, for trades, or for small builders, right? Any company, let's say, doing less than 5 million in sales per year, having a 90-day picture in front of them of what's going to happen from a cash perspective 90 days from now, it's super powerful because it allows them to see what cash they're expecting to bring in, what cash is expected to go out of the operation as well, right? And to make sure that there's always enough cash within the business environment. So that's already a massive, massive shift if they can do that. For businesses that are larger than 5 million, so let's say somewhere between the 5 to 50 million in sales, and also for businesses like property developers, I like to have at least 1 to 2 years of cash flow, future cash flow in front of us, especially in property development, because we need to make sure that there's enough cash through the operation over the next 2 years. So what does that enable us to do? You see, it enables us to play now for success. All of our clients have what we call a cash target for their business. So what's a cash target? I'm going to use a fictitious number right now. Let's say that a business owner now who's also thinking as an investor, he's thinking or she's thinking, you know what? My business needs to generate $1 million a year of cash for me. Yeah. Now, in order for business to generate 1 million in cash that can be extracted out of the business environment, we also need to take taxation into account. So let's just say we need to generate 1.3 million in net profit that we can show to the ATO. So then we have 1 million that we can actually extract out of the business. See, this is what we can now connect to an investment strategy. So if you have a business ecosystem that's producing X amount of cash that you can extract out of the company, now you can utilize this for your investment plan. Now, because we have lots of clients in construction, a lot of them understand that part of the game really well from a development perspective. It doesn't mean that they're automatically a successful developer, but it means that they have the foundations. They understand what's a good house that's been built. They can understand patterns of growth in different suburbs, different areas, because they're actively involved in it. So they're primarily positioned to be able to use investment capital to grow through property development. That could be one way. The other way, I mean, there are so many assets to invest in, right? But that's the importance of cash flow. Playing from a game of winning, not just survival. Survival is the first part, right? But then it's about having a system that can show us this is how much we can extract out of the business environment so we can invest into this. This is now how your business becomes a wealth creation machine, right? Now, unfortunately, 1 to 2% of businesses are set up that way. Yeah. Our clients are set up that way. That's the way that we help them to structure their company and their thinking so their businesses can become a wealth creation machine, right? But here's what happens with most businesses, Ethan, that they they don't understand this enough. They don't have enough systems that can track this for them, right? So what they're playing is the here and now today game. How do we survive today? What needs to happen next week? They're consumed mostly into what's urgent and important. Therefore, they're not making enough time in their environment to work on the things that are important but not urgent. This being one of them, right? So that's how I encapsulate this the way to think about it and the way to set it up as well, the cash flow.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Amazing points there. Completely agree. And yeah, once you're playing that game to win, like you said, you've got all this profit that's coming out. That's being put there to support growth in the business, and especially more to invest to create wealth, right? In other ways, because yeah, business owners, a lot of the old school ways is they go to retire, they've never invested in anything and everything like that, and then they're not left with as much, right? So you want to be using wealth creation as you go through your journey, together as well, and that's what the cash flow system, right, is doing to be able to do that and help it. So I love that side. The other thing you talked about was obviously profit there. So I think and cash flow is still the most important. However, we've got to make sure that we are profitable, of course, in the business
Yes.
too. So uh, let's talk more about profit. And I think part of this is obviously how jobs are being quoted, right? Is it definitely a big part about that side
Yes.
of things? So talk about this side and profit margins and where we should be focusing on to make sure that we're going to have a successful business.
Excellent. Now, look, you know, without wanting to make any assumptions, but because we see a lot of people, right? And so we know that everyone has a different way of believing, our belief systems, right? Now, someone that's watching your show, the assumption would be that they're keen to grow, they value themselves, they're looking for ways to improve their lives and their business, right? This is really important, right? Because when it comes to something so important as making sure that we are charging the right amount for our product or service, it means that it makes the rest of the operation smoother because we've done that bit right. Yeah. Um, I'm going to use builders as an example, but this applies to everybody. It applies to trades, it applies to manufacturing, it applies to property development, it applies to every area. For now, I'm going to use it to builders. In the last couple of years, I had some builders saying, you know what, in my area, there's no one that's going to pay me more than a 15% on top of my costs, right? Um, and so that just believing that already takes them out of a whole level of game that they could be playing different, right? Now, if someone is open to change the way they're thinking about this, then that's going to help them to have a better performing business. So their belief around this is really, really important, right? So if I ask someone like that, well, are you open to seeing how you could charge 30% on top of your costs? And if they're open to that, then okay, we can do some work with that. So here's what's really important. And look, it is interesting that after so many years in business, we still need to teach people the difference between a markup and a margin, right? And this comes purely from not being educated, the financial IQ, right? And so the easiest way to think about it, a markup is an amount, a percentage you put on top, but it's not what you keep. It's a percentage you've put on top. A margin is what you actually get to keep from a project. Yeah. So again, if people need assistance with this, they can reach out to us. We can help them with that. But understanding that is absolutely crucial, because if someone walks into a deal thinking they're going to keep 20%, but they're actually keeping 16%, it's like starting a race, but they're starting 50 meters behind every other person that's in the race, right? We know how that's going to go. Unless they're bolt right in their best years. But even then, they already starting behind where they need to start. So understanding that key difference. Second, everything in the business needs to be planned. You know, I do exercises with teams where I get them to play games. And it's so interesting, so many teams that you give them a game to do and they just jump in straight into doing the game. There's not even a minute of thinking, hey guys, how should we play the game? What is success for our game? Who's going to do what? How do we make sure we win? Like, no, they just go for it, right? And how many people are playing the game of life and the game of business like that? You know, Christmas and New Year's happens, and then they come back and they're like, all right, gotta get back to work, gotta come make some money. And they just jump out on site again and they do their day to day. And then is Australia Day, then is Easter. Then we have a few months of running straight. Before you know it, it's Christmas again. All right. And this happens very rapidly. So everything has to be planned. So with our clients, what do? We set a target for the margin. How much should each project contribute to the overall company, right? You got to think of it as a contribution margin. So for builders out there, and again, for the right people that are listening to this, they'll get it. They'll get that, even if they don't get it, what we want to spark here is curiosity. How do we do this? Right? Some of our clients are charging builders. They're putting in their quotes now with a 30% gross profit margin. Why? Why? Because if you're still thinking anywhere in the space of 15%, you're crazy. Now, let me clarify. If you own a commercial building company that does projects in excess of 15 million each, 15% is still the right number for you, right? When I'm talking about here, it's more your residential builders that are doing projects anywhere between 500,000 to 8 to 10 million, right? Now, especially in the higher end of the scale, we're going in with big margins now. Why? Guys, it has to be a win-win transaction. Number one. Number two, again, we've spoken about all the blood that's been in the streets over the last, 7 years because people have run out of money because they've been charging incorrectly. So this is how important that quoting part is, making sure that you're pricing right. Yeah. Anyway, from a residential perspective, and we have the standards for all across the board. So again, if someone wants to have more information on this, we can provide it. But for a residential builder, there's no reason why they should be keeping any less than 22% of whatever the project is. And so I didn't say 22% marking up. I'm saying keeping 22%. So they need to be able to work out the margin with that. Okay. It's that important, right? If we think about it from a maths perspective, someone doing their jobs at 12%, right, has to do double the work of someone that's got a margin of 24%. And they're still in the same spot. Right? But one of them has to do absolute double, right? And it comes down to those margins. So if someone's listening and they're curious, then the question is, well, how do I need to set up my marketing to get in front of the right people that are willing to pay a bit extra for the level of quality they're going to get? And that's the whole structure that needs to be set up.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Love it. So important with the differences. I know I was doing with my client the other day, talking about a 30%, gross profit margin. I go, if you're thinking about it from a markup, because sometimes software or people do that easily, right? And
Yes.
the thing, it's actually 42%, markup for it. So it's like, that's massive difference, right? 12% there. So, how much it's going to drop if you just only did a 30% markup, so just to make people aware of how you're calculating things in that process is so important, and that bigger picture, like you said, right, further down the track. So yeah, love that, mate. Really, really important there. And let's talk about budgeting now quickly, because I think this is an important topic as well, right?
Yes.
Where we've got the cash flow, we've got that 3 months we've already talked about. Now it's like, and big businesses do this very well, and small businesses should be doing it too. Is understanding, okay, let's look at like the year ahead, and going, what are we budgeting for how we're going to grow, etc. And then yeah, I guess the importance of that as well. So yeah, let us know about the budgeting side too, mate.
Beautiful, man. I absolutely love it. And that's why I'm so you've heard me saying before, if we do the numbers right, the numbers will tell us what to do, right? And and so all of the things we're speaking about today are super important. They are crucial. In fact, if anyone is listening out there that they don't have a forward cash flow system, if they don't have a strategic pricing model, and if they don't have a budget, just imagine if you were flying on a plane and you knew that you're going to fly to America, but the pilot is blind, and second, there are no instruments on that plane. Would you get on that plane, right? This is the reality, right? So budgeting. Budgeting is so important because it is the map of how we're going to get a business to success. Here are the things, right? If you're as you get more sophisticated in business, right? You may start a company if you still want to do startups rather than acquisitions. You might start a company, and you if you're more sophisticated, you can raise capital from investors, right? And you can use this capital to get this business to work. What are the first two things this business needs to accomplish to become a business? First of all, positive cash flow. So, as an investor, this is something I'm looking at. If I'm going to invest into this, when does it become positive cash flow? Number two, break even. When do the expenses meet the revenue at a point where now there is no loss, but there's no profit either, right? Those two metrics are super important. So since we're talking about budgeting, with the budget, we can look at things like break even. We can create things like, well, what should be our target gross profit margin? Yeah. So we can get that from there, right? Second, based on where we want to take the company, because with a budget, you can start with the end in mind. You can say, okay, you know what, guys, by the end of this year, the business should be generating, let's say, $200,000 a month in net profit. Let's say if you go for that. So now it means that if you start with the end in mind, this is how much we want from the investor seat. This is how much we want this asset to produce for us on a monthly or yearly basis. Okay, what else needs to happen now in the rest of the P&L, the profit and loss statement, in order for us to reach this 200K a month of net profit, right? Now, guys, I'm only using a number. That number could be 20,000 a month. It could be 2 million a month, 200 million a month, whatever. The number is not important. It's about the structure we're talking about. So one thing that business owners get caught up in is that they're not ahead of their tax game. Yeah. Let's all get real with it. Tax is part of our life here. And unless you're doing over 50 million in sales, that conversation of tax minimization doesn't exist for you yet. All right. It's not potent enough. So please, guys, if your accountant is going towards compliance, if the conversation is about compliance and tax minimization, please revisit whether you have the right accountant or not. You need an accountant that's playing strategy with you, not being an agent for the ATO and just blanketing you with all the other businesses in the same way. You need someone that's on your team thinking on your behalf. So this is part of budgeting, right? Because now, if you make a target for profit, you can also make a target for tax. If your target for tax is right, it means that ATO is paid off. They're happy. You can go and build as much wealth as you can, the ATO doesn't mind, they don't mind. You can become the richest person in the country. As long as you're paying your taxes, they're off your back. Simple as that, right? So the taxation planning is super important. And it's also important because when your business reaches a level of 2 million in net profit per year, suddenly the doors open to a whole new world that you may have not known that has been there all along, which is the investment capital. There are certain companies that will not even look at a business until they reach that 2 million of net profit per year. But once the company reaches that, it opens us up to different institutions that are willing to fund, invest, all of these things that can happen. Am I saying that's the path you want to take? No. But what I'm saying is the budget allows us to create that structure. The other thing that it allows us to do is to pre-play the game before it happens. So you can say, okay, well, one of the things that we're big on apart from money is time, right? How are we utilizing the business owner's time? How are they utilizing their time? So from there, we can ask the question, okay, what does the game need to look like in order for the business owner to not be, let's say, operationally involved? Yeah. I'll give an example. I work with a client that it's in the waterproofing business. And we initially, when we started working, he was based in ACT, but their plan was to expand to the rest of New South Wales, and then we're going to expand nationally, right? Now, in his budget, what we're looking at is, okay, who are the key people that we need in Newcastle? Who are the key people we need in Sydney? And who are the key people we need in ACT in order for him to be detached completely from the operational department, right? He's not detached from the business yet, right? That will be next stage. But initially, we want to take him completely out of operations, which will put 35 hours a week back into his pocket, right? Which means we can now go and take this company national because now his time will be focused on the growth activities. So the budget allowed us to see that. It allows us to see this is how much it's going to cost us from a money perspective to remove him out of the operations department, right? So based on all of that, then it gives us the actual revenue we need to generate in order for all of this to happen. So see, this is why I love budgets because it's like, we can play the game before we go on and play it, right? And we can play scenarios, we can play so many things, right? And then we can go and play the game and actually check on a monthly basis how we're doing according to what we've budgeted, right? So if you think about it from a cash flow perspective is about the fuel on the plane. The budget is about how we want this plane to perform while it's doing its journey. And it allows us to do all of that. So it's magic, man. It's magic when you're doing great budgeting. You can see I'm excited about it,
Definitely, mate. I love it. And yeah, so important. Amazing points. And I think that the scenarios is the big thing, right? For everyone here. Just like if you want to hire someone, right? What does it look like
Yes,
if I hire them? How does that change the numbers, right? Do I need to sell a bit more? Do I need to do this? Like, what does the margins look like, right? So all of a sudden you start to know things because then you're going, I may have to change something, right? Or when do I hire them? All of that as well as how I grow. So important, man. And yeah, I love it. And I love the thinking around the tax side of things as well, right? Because yeah, instead of minimization, it's more around how do I technically pay more tax, because it's going to help me out for investment
exactly.
because I want to invest in things. Yeah. It,
Exactly. Man, when I hear companies like they're doing 1 million in sales and they're like, oh, I don't want to pay tax. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? Like, you want to grow, but you don't want to pay tax. Like, it doesn't go hand in hand. Let's grow, let's pay tax. Let's pay no more than what we need to, but let's pay the fair amount. But most important, let's have a strategic plan for growth. And what do you want this business to look like? What do you want it to provide for you? Right? I think a lot of energy just gets caught up in that. Let's minimize tax. No, let's talk about that when we're doing more than 50 million in sales. There's other ways to do that. But again, it's about doing it in a way that works and it's win-win.
Yeah, definitely, man. Love it. And yeah, you shared so much gold with us today, Andres. And as we're starting to wrap up, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be in full integrity if I didn't say go and have a mentor, someone that you can talk with about your business at this level, and make sure it's someone that you pay for, right? Because when we're working from a mentoring perspective and someone has our back, I mean I have three coaches, right? Three people that I pay to make sure that they're on board with my vision, that they're covering my blind spots. Anyone that says that I have blind spots, they're blind, right? So we all have blind spots. So having someone or people in your team that are aligned with your vision and are working together, and hopefully that they're smarter than you. You know, it's great to not be the smartest one in the room, right? Once you can let go of any attachment that you have to, to not being smart, then it's actually a lot easier, right? So being okay with having a team of people that are smarter than you, and following the guidance is my number one advice.
Yeah, awesome, man. Completely agree. I wouldn't be where I am either without my, coaches
You're
and
big on
mentors.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly. So yeah.
massive, man. And we need coaches and mentors to be able to coach and mentor other people as well, right?
Exactly.
So we're in alignment. So love it, man. Yeah, definitely so important. And yeah, we connected through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from having worked, with over 1,500 businesses over the last 18 years, and now being the principal CEO at Business House Group. You're an awesome guy, mate. Shared so much value with us here today, especially around the finances, numbers side of business, which is so important. Why most businesses fail, right? And how we can ensure that they have the best chance of succeeding. And I'm sure you continue to help business owners and leaders transform their business and unlock their full potential. Very grateful that we connected and look forward to partnering together. So, Andres, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Wonderful. So many ways. They can help find us on socials, so Facebook and Instagram, Business House Group. We have our page there. They can go to our website, businesshousegroup.com.au. There's a 1300 number. You'll get direct to one of our team members direct straight away. Or there's lots of events that we go out to, or we run, but those are the easiest ways. Call us, website, Instagram, Facebook, socials.
Beautiful. Awesome. We'll definitely check out Andre's Business House Group website, socials, and reach out if you want to help yourself in your business as well, especially with the financial side, among all the other areas of business too. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, mate, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
Ethan, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the invite, and love the work that you're doing as well, man. So look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Business Growth Show, where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you'd reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. So until next time, remember that our business grows where we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So let's create wealth and freedom together.